Welcome back to the Sweet Spot. I'm so thrilled to introduce Natalie Cutler Welsh from Go To Girl. She is an author, a speaker, she's a podcaster, a social media coach, networker, and also an impact entrepreneur. She's on a mission to help women in business to do and be more than they ever thought possible. And it's not really about the social media for her, it's more about helping all of these women shine and have more fun and flow in their business, which is what she's all about for hers as well. Welcome, Nat. Nice to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So you've got a pretty amazing story as to how Go To Girl was born. Can you tell us about that, Nat?
Yeah, you can see it on the sign behind me. I love how we both got really similar signs, the motivational signs behind us. Yeah, well, Go To Girl, the full name, Go To Girl Social Media and Networking, was born originally out of a business coffee group. So it started literally, it was like, starting a business in your garage. I started a business in my lounge where I used to invite women who had just local moms from my kids' school that I realized were running their own business, working for themselves. One was a personal trainer. One did talks about personality type. One sold jewelry, and I just said, hey, ladies, do you want to come round? I really just pitched it as a one-off. Did you want to come round? I'll just put on some coffee and tea, and we can just talk about business and stuff. And because I'd been an Outward Bound instructor, you can see it from my sign, I made that for myself. That was my 40th birthday present to myself, the sign. So I basically invited them around for this one-off, and I just thought it'd be great to just connect. And I facilitated the discussion. I asked some questions. I had them identify some goals. Just really not too structured. But for me, I like to always have a little bit of push them to a certain level of commitment. Yeah. And people really loved it, and they were like, "Let's do it again." And then we basically did that on and off for a whole year. We met every pretty much fortnightly, which every other week we'd meet. And it got to the point where my husband said, we've moved up here to Auckland, where we live, from Christchurch, where we were in this massive earthquake. Yeah. And as a result of the earthquake, we not only did we had a baby the next day, which is a whole other story, but we ended up losing our house because it was deemed not livable anymore. And we ended up he lost his job. And so we ended up moving to a new city, which was much more expensive. So after a year of me running this business coffee group, he said, do you think you can you monetize that?
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess so. I felt really nervous about it. Asking people for money was new for me, and particularly asking people for money who had previously gotten something for free from me felt also very scary, but they were fine about it. And things grew from there. Then it grew into workshops that I used to do in cafes. And then I would do coaching sessions from my house. And the social media side came into it. And then the business coaching side came into it as well. And now we're 4 years down the track.
Wow. And, a lot of that came out of the earthquake, a number of years ago. That must have been a massive time for you as a family.
Yeah, well, our little guy just turned 5, and so he was born. Like I said, we went into labor that night, and he was born the next day. And being my third child, I was pretty confident about delivering safely. Although I did not want to do it in my house in the rubble and the earthquake and everything. We had no running water. You have to remember, no power.
Wow.
No toilets that flushed and all that. So yeah, we actually drove into the hospital, which was great, and everything was fine. So that was pretty huge. And I guess the thing that a lot of people say to us is, "Wow, you guys just you took it in your stride."
Yes.
We really, we did. And I think partly, again, coming back to being an Outward Bound instructor, but we actually had a plan, because I'm a girl. I like to have a plan.
Yep.
We had a plan. We did exactly what we said we were going to do in the plan, which was, a long story. But anyway, I was keeping the kids safe, and then he came home from work, and we met each other. And we just thought, what? The world's our oyster now. Like we just have to start again, but no one died. Like, my husband's alive and our baby survived. And so all is well. And really that's the philosophy that we adopted, and good things have come out of that bad situation for us.
Sure. Well, it's an amazing story. So obviously you have 3 children, and you started this company whilst your baby was a newborn baby. What for you is the hardest thing about motherhood?
Yeah, well, actually,
Or working in motherhood, I should say.
when my little guy was born, at that point, I was still writing my book. So, product placement. Here we go. This is a copy of my book. And I'm the hectic but happy at-home mother of 3. My co-author, Jackie, she's the stylish, neat freak, full-time working mother of 2. So when we wrote the book, I was not really working. I was the one at home, washing the nappies. We did eco nappies. I was in the kitchen like most new mothers, 5 hours a day, doing snacks and meals and laundry and all that kind of stuff. And Jackie, actually, my co-author, she was the working mom. And so I didn't have that experience. And nor did I want that experience at that stage of things. I really didn't get into the stage of becoming an entrepreneur and really wanting to work and do work for myself until my third child was much older, maybe 8 or 9 or 10 or so months old. But I was juggling things in the sense that I was trying to write this book while I had the baby, and it was a book that I'd been writing for a couple of years already. And just writing it as I lived it and wanting to get it out there, A, to help people, right? And B, to finish what I said I was going to do. And so that in itself was tricky, but I think it set me up really well to launch a business, because not only did I learn about Facebook and Pinterest, but I also learned about how to have buffer and boundaries around your time and when you're working and when you're not working, and have that discipline around completing a project.
That's great. And do you think you and Jackie are very different in your mothering styles in the way that, it's come together in the book?
Yeah, people love us. We have a podcast with about 120 episodes, which people can listen to, and it's really funny. The reason I laugh is because, we're so opposite, and that's part of the reason people love us, because they call us the Trini and Susanna of the parenting world. Yeah, I'm the one with like the homemade baby food and the organic this and that and washable nappies the whole way through. Yeah. And she's at the other end of the spectrum, disposable all the way. She literally wore high heels until she was 9 months pregnant. So she's pregnant in heels, and she works in advertising, and she always looks like dressed to the nines. And I'm more of the sporty. So in the book, actually, my icon is a little running shoe, because I was more flats and functional, and she's a stiletto heel. And that's where you can tell who's writing. And you can also tell by the tone and the style of our writing as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And it sounds like fun as well. You've got a lot of fun to it as well, which, let's face it, we all need a bit of a sense of humour. To working. So what would you say is like the hardest thing that you manage in your day, being a working mother of 3?
Well, so like I said, our littlest only just started school. So I think I feel like it is easier now, or it's just getting easier. I think the hardest stage was definitely when I had 3 kids at 3 different locations. So the thing that for me is I was still clinging so strongly to being the mother at home. My husband's like, why don't you just put him in daycare like 5 days a week? I'm like, oh my God, there's no way I could do that. And I just had this thing. So I kind of made it hard for myself, where I had one at kindergarten and one at a daycare, because he wasn't 3 yet. He was 2 at that point, and I wanted him to start. But I only wanted him there like 2 mornings or something like that. And my other one was at school. So I was literally doing 15 pickups and drop-offs a week. And it's crazy. And I have a super helpful husband. I mean, I know a lot of women out there have husbands that just are either not able to physically come and help, either do a pickup or drop off now and then, or they just, usually it's they just can't do it with the time that they need to go to work and all that kind of stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
Or maybe some women that don't even have the husband, which just baffles me, because I feel like he's a huge part of me being able to do what I do with Go To Girl, is because he's such a supportive partner, which is great. And recently I've been doing so well in business that he's been able to resign from his job, and a job that it wasn't fine, but he wasn't loving it. And so we give him that freedom. And he actually got to a stage where he wanted to be more involved with the kids. He loves making school lunches. He loves like going and helping out at school and things like that. So he's doing a stint as home daddy, which is so well deserved after 10 years straight of working really hard. And I was ready to swap. I have to tell you, I was so at that point, I'm like, honey, like, let's just swap. Whereas before, when I was writing my book, like I said, there's no way. I mean, I wanted to be there for the kids, and I did not want to work full time. I was not interested at all. Now I'm working full time, but because I'm my own boss, I kind of call the shots. So it's
yeah. And there does come a time, doesn't there, where you're ready to get back out into the world and create your own steam and how you want it to be.
Yeah, I'm ready to forge ahead.
That's great. And so I love your philosophy too, Nat, the give, give, get.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Okay, so this is great because it really brings together the parenting and the business side of things.
Yeah.
So one of my mottos, and I teach this to the girls that I work with, is give, give, get. And so I think as mothers, we are kind of we're on this path that we're so accustomed to give, 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 give.
Yeah.
And then either get resentful, or just burn out, like get injured or something.
Yeah.
I was just telling you earlier before the call that I just was getting treatment for my back because I've had back injuries in the past for not taking care of myself. So my new motto is, I've had this motto for about a year, give, give, get. And that really means, yes, of course, be generous, be helpful, be giving, help out at school or whatever, be helpful with your clients, be there for them, but make sure that you're also getting something back in return. So as a business owner, that means, you're getting paid your worth. So it's about self-worth. It's also about getting actual time when you're not working. So being really clear about when you're available, when you're not available. As a mother, it means, just taking some time out, even if it's literally I schedule in my calendar. I say buffer, like I write in buffer, to leave buffer between my appointments, because otherwise I let one thing run into the next thing. And before you know it, I haven't eaten since 7:00 in the morning and it's 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And so I think we just need to make sure we're getting something back in return. And I don't mean that in a greedy way. I just mean that in a self-care kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's totally how that comes across.
Somebody said to me, maybe it should be give, give, receive. And I was like, no, it should be get.
And I suppose it doesn't matter what you call it, really. It is just about making sure that there's balance and making sure that you're also receiving or, getting a bit of juice as well.
Exactly. And that might, for some women, like for me, for example, I love nothing more than having a hot bath, like once or twice a week. Yep. And that's my time to just, I call it fill my cup, yep. And just relax. And then usually I'm lying there listening to a podcast. And ideally the door is closed so the children aren't trying to come in the bath with me. And just whatever it is that makes you happy. Other women love running, right? Another woman loves flipping through a magazine. Whatever it is that fills your cup, make sure you do at least one thing a day that makes sure that you're getting back for yourself.
That's great advice for us all, definitely. And you're working on a new delivery, Up Your Brave. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, well, this is really interesting. It's interesting what our friends and clients can reflect back to us. So I was with my lovely friend, Lisa Black, and she was asking us about when we were younger and trying to remember what we used to do. And we were closing our eyes. And when we opened our eyes, I said, wow, that's interesting. I was like doing handstands off diving boards, and I was crawling. I was going up the ravine to get to school instead of taking the steps, which were literally right there. I was going to the ravine and holding onto trees. And she said, yeah, well, that's how we see you. You're like a trailblazer. You're so courageous and brave. You help women to up their brave. And I was like, I like that. I'm gonna
What a great title.
And I actually just got the domain name because I think that's really cool. I do. I help women. So I help them to up, I help you up your brave. Some women in business are scared to shine. And particularly, I'm a Canadian by birth. I'm a Kiwi, New Zealander by heritage. And so I think I have that really nice mix of, the Kiwi humility mixed with the Canadian, like I'm, here I am, like the confidence, right? And so I think I help women to shine and to be seen and to be heard. And some of them are nervous about that. They don't want to want people to think that they think they're better than the rest and all that kind of stuff. But they like the idea of being on stage and speaking to a room full of people, or they love the idea of running a webinar and sharing their gold with other people. And so I encourage them to do that in whatever way suits their personality and their business model, of course.
Right. So is there anything that you could advise us? I know obviously there's many viewers and we don't actually know who they are, but what would be a really great first step for many of us women to up our brave a little bit?
So are you want business or business or pleasure?
Yeah, it's actually, let's do one of each for sure.
Yeah, well, I think with a lot of women, I think if you ask them, what is it that you want for your clients? Like, what are you wanting for your ideal client? And I often get them to call to mind. A friend of mine, Natalie, she calls it the red carpet client, meaning not just, woman age 35 to 45, but like, her name is Susan and she always wears this flower in her hair, and she goes to the beach every Saturday. Like, you really hone in on who this person is. And it's like, what do you want for your clients? What do you want for Susan? And you're like, I just want her to feel relaxed. I want her to feel like she's doing a good job with her kids, et cetera, et cetera. And if it's really interesting, if you start really honing into what you really want for your clients, more often than not, that is actually what you want for yourself.
Wow.
But I find as women, we find it hard to answer the question of what do we truly want, because we're so used to give.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are quite out of touch with that. So we almost find it easier to think about what we want for other people. Yeah. And when we get specific and we say, well, what do we actually want for our ideal client? Then when we think, actually, that's so funny, because that's exactly what I'm seeking, And so when you get really clear on what you're seeking, then we say, okay, well, let's do that. And in terms of upping your brave, for some of them, it might be admitting that that's what they actually want. And it might, me saying, I want people to be seen and heard. I want mothers to feel present with their kids. Like, these are the things I want, Yeah. And quite often also with your ideal client is your ideal client is an earlier version of yourself. Quite often. Yeah. Always this synergy going on. So in order to up your brave, it's kind of like, well, what can you do that is actually going to help your clients? And this is great. I mentioned before that I had this bad back, and my friend Lisa said, you need to take time for yourself. You need to go outside. This is me listening to my own advice, a couple times a day, and breathe in the fresh air and do these things for yourself. Because otherwise, if you just work all the time, if you're not going to do it for yourself, at least do it for your clients. So it's like, okay, you're right. I'm going to do it for my clients, because if I'm not treating myself with respect and giving myself the buffer in my day and going outside and spending 10 minutes in the sunshine or writing in my gratitude journal, then how can I expect my clients to do similar things? So you need to lead by example. So sometimes upping your brave, it might be, for some people, it might be, running that webinar they've been talking about for a year, or writing that book that's been spinning around in their head for ages, and I did that, right? And for other women, it might be entering a marathon if it's on your bucket list, or all sorts of things. It really depends on, getting clear on where you want to go and what's kind of standing in your way. And often that thing that we're resistant towards doing, that we know that's the thing that we need to be doing. Yeah,
it's great. I love the honing in on somebody else, Nat, so that then we begin to understand more of who and what we are and what we need, what makes us tick. I think very often we are well and truly not even in the picture.
Yeah, we're not. And sometimes women find it easier, instead of saying, what do you want? You say, if we're going to ask it directly, let's just put the ideal client to the side. If we're going to ask it directly, usually it's like, what are three ways that you want to feel, this year? How do you want to feel in your business? And sometimes they find it easier to think about how they want to feel. Like, I want to feel confident. I want to feel appreciated. I want to feel supported. I want to feel influential. Whatever it is that comes to mind for those women. Then it's like, what do you need to do to feel that? And sometimes it is they need to do something, that they need to up their brave, and they need to put themselves out there and just do that thing. It doesn't necessarily even need to be in the limelight. It can be, have that conversation with your husband that you've been putting off. It doesn't have to be a look at me situation. It just needs to be something that helps them to up their brave.
What's coming into my mind is, the sense of the matriarch in the family. And the matriarch, if she's not taking care of herself, then, if she's the queen of the castle and the queen's not taking care of herself, then the castle's going to be in ruin.
Exactly. That's right. That's what they say. If Mama Bear goes down, the whole family's in trouble. And so we need to look after ourselves. I mean, I've got a little bit of a cold right now, because I've got my big networking event coming up, and I'm like, I need to look after myself to get well, because a lot of people are relying on us.
Yeah, absolutely. It does not work if the queen of go-to girl goes down.
No, we don't want that.
Not at all. And so is Up Your Brave going to be a new business model for you, or is it going to be included into, your already existing programs?
I think it's just like my friend said. She's like, that's how we think of you anyway, right? So behind me, I've got a picture from one of my networking events with all my ladies. There I am in the center with all the women at one of my events. And she said, that's how we think of you anyway. So I feel like it's just me putting a bit of a stamp or a catchy phrase, tagline, on top of what I'm already doing. And I think, and And then again, going back to the ideal client, when I say that, women who are ready and they are ready to up their brave, they will be drawn to me, right? Because we don't want everybody drawn to us. We want the right people, the people we can help, the people we love working with. And so when I talk about, I want to help you shine, I want to help you be seen and speak to, get your message out there. I'm an impact entrepreneur. I want to help women that have a burning desire like me to make a massive difference in the world. If that calls to you, I'd love to help you up your brave. And so when women hear me talking like that, some women will be like, oh my gosh, no thanks, right? And that's fine. And other women will be like, where do I sign up? Or like, how do I stand beside you? And I'm like, honey, like, hold my hand, come on up here.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. Up your brave just helps me because it reflects my personality. Like my friend said, it's what I was already doing. I used to be an outward bound instructor. I used to teach sailing and do rock climbing and ropes course. And it's like, I'm just bringing a bit more of that, not literally.
Yeah.
But I'm bringing a bit more of that energy into my business, or at least I'm naming it. I've always had the energy and the action, but now I'm putting that stamp on it, which is, I think is
great. Well, yeah. I'm pretty sure we can all feel it.
Yeah.
Hard not to.
And this is me on a sick day.
That's terrific. So Nat, what pieces of advice would you have for all of the people who are watching and feeling quite inspired by you at this moment? What advice would you have for them for their day, for their week, for their year, for their own passion?
Yeah, well, this is kind of a bit of a techie type one. Well, not exactly, but I have this thing called the 4 B's and the 2 D's. And so I'm trying to live, it goes along with give, give, get. I'm trying to live my life a bit more like this. So the 4 B's are buffer, boundaries, batching, and B time. Okay, and the D's, just in case I forget for later, are ditch and delegate. And so when I'm talking about putting buffer in your day, like you have to, so when people try to book in with my calendar, like a lot of people have a calendar and they let people book in with them. Either some people do the free 20-minute session and other people have time for actual coaching calls or whatever, meetings, whatever it is. I literally go and I put buffer in, like I said before, and I even write down lunch or even water. Sometimes I write in my calendar, drink water, like just so that I do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So buffer, boundaries is having physical boundaries around where you're actually working. Okay, I used to be a kitchen table girl, right, where I'd sit at the laptop on the kitchen table and I'd be there in the morning and the kids are coming and going, and it's really not clear to them and it's not fair to anybody in terms of, are you working or are you not working? Do you know what I mean? And so having that physical space around where you actually do your work, ideally not in the bedroom, then that can be really helpful. And also boundaries around when you're working and when you're not working. For example, I think I mentioned to you earlier, I've only recently for myself given myself Tidy Up Tuesday and Screen Free Saturday. What that means is on Tidy Up Tuesday, even though I have no kids at home anymore, during Tuesday, that's my day to do my accounting, to go through all those emails I haven't been through, to literally clean my office, to literally put away the clothes that are piled in my bedroom. So it's Tidy Up Tuesday, so it's a non-contact day for me. I won't be delivering, I won't be coaching on that day. And then Screen Free Saturday is really my way, because I love my business, I love my work. There's always people wanting my advice and stuff like that. I say, like, you know what, Screen Free Saturday, I am not turning on the laptop on Saturday.
Do you know, I actually thought you said Scream Free Saturday.
Yeah, that too. Screen Free Saturday means I'm not opening up the computer, because otherwise, you know how it is. I'll just quickly do this and I'll just quickly do that. And later, my kids like at the
hours
going, are you
later.
So in fairness to my children, and in order to be present and to role model what I'm talking about, I have this thing called Screen Free Saturday, which just really helps me to be disciplined about not working, because I don't need to work all the time.
Yeah.
So that's the buffer and the boundaries. And then we get into batching, which people have heard of before, or theming, which is really great. So if you're a podcaster like me, it was like only do my podcast interviews on Wednesdays or Fridays, et cetera, et cetera. So, or maybe someone's a writer or they're doing blogging, so they like to use Mondays as their creativity day to create and just let things flow, so they're not going from one meeting to the next and coming in and out of that beautiful creative space. And so that's batching. And the last one was B time. And so B time really is actually putting time in your calendar where you're actually not doing anything. You're not doing any doing.
Yep.
You're just being present. Right? So what that might look like is, for example, me time might be catching up with my girlfriends, but that's not really B time, because I'm I'm with other people and I'm not really just with my own self.
Yep.
So I would say B time is either writing in your gratitude journal, doing your adult coloring book, going outside, sitting in the grass, having a nap, like, you're just being.
Yeah.
Maybe doing some slow yoga, maybe getting a cup of tea and reading a magazine, maybe me in the bath, possibly not with a podcast because that's, again, someone else's thoughts. But do you get the gist? So those are the 4 B's. And this is my long-winded answer to your question.
I love it.
The 2 D's, which are ditch and delegate. I see so many women entrepreneurs, and this is a lot of the things I help them with. They've got so much coming at them, and I almost help them to triage. I'm like, okay, that's for later, that's a never, and we're going to do that thing next. And I help them to prioritize their to-do list, because one thing we have to realize, the to-do list never, ever ends.
Never.
Right? As an entrepreneur, ever.
Ever.
And so, one of the things we need to do is we need to ditch and we need to delegate. So by ditch, it's like, what do you have on your to-do list? Or if you were to make a mind map, this is one of the things I get girls to do when they work with me. I've got this group called my influencers group. And one of the first things they do is I say, make a mind map of all the things you're doing, right? So one of the circles is like marketing and the other one is accounting or whatever. And then they have the little handles coming off and it just looks like this crazy spider web. And then I have them go and say, I want you to circle the things that only you can do. Like only you can, or highlight, whatever suits your fancy. And they highlight only the things that they can do. And people get precious about this, but then they realize, oh my gosh, I don't actually need to be in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Juggle 1,000 balls. And then I also have them go and put a little X or something beside things they actually hate doing, things that don't fill their cup, that don't bring them joy, things that actually stress them out, right? And then we look at, of all those things, what can you either ditch, like meaning stop doing, and what can you delegate to somebody else? Right? And so it might even be things in your regular life, not even your entrepreneurial journey, but it might be tasks that you've taken on either at school or the kindergarten or because of, with your cousins or whatever it is. What can you ditch and delegate so that you can free up more time for yourself to do what you actually love doing, right? Stay in your area of genius, as some people call it, so that you can have more fun. And that's why I talk about having more fun and flow and therefore have more impact when you're not trying to juggle 1,000 balls and do everything that comes your way.
It's great advice.
4 B's and the 2 D's.
4 B's and the 2 D's. I'm going to run away and jot some things down. I think we all will. Nat, it was just so wonderful to speak with you today, and I thank you very much for your time, and I love the 4 B's and the 2 D's. I think that's something that we can all take on really easily, and and that have us have more fun, as you say, and more flow. That's what life is all about: being in the present and living our best lives.
Indeed.
So thank you so much for being here today, Nat. If you want to know more about Nat, so she's got the links down below, and you can go and contact her directly. Thanks very much, Nat.
Thanks so much. See ya.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next show tomorrow. Bye.